Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Ji Aana Sangat Ji, and welcome to Sikh Channel. So Sikh Channel are really honoured and privileged, and the only channel to be invited to the commemoration of the 120th anniversary of Saragarhi. So we're here today in London at Constitution Hill at the Memorial Gates, where we're going to be speaking to various members that have been invited to this exclusive event. And as you can see, Sangat Ji, just behind me, everyone's getting ready for the next lot of speeches and the event to start. But ਅਸੀਂ ਹੁਣ ਗੱਲਾਂ ਬਾਤਾਂ ਵੀ ਕਰਾਂਗੇ in a short while once the event starts with the people that have attended to find out a bit about their thoughts and about the history of Saragarhi. So let's go in and go and speak to some of the guests. So Sangat Ji, I'm here with Captain Jai Singh Sohal, who's also here representing a certain organisation. ਹੁਣ ਅਸੀਂ ਭਾਜੀ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਗੱਲ ਕਰਾਂਗੇ to find out who he's representing in his role. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. So Baji, I see that you're holding this really nice layout here. If you could just tell me who you're representing actually.
Yeah. I'm a member of the British Army with 77 Brigades, so I'm here representing the Brigadier and laying a wreath in honour of all the men who served in India and Burma during the Second World War with the 77 Brigade. The brigade is quite important in the recapture of Burma after the Japanese swarmed in during the Second World War. And certainly we see during that conflict that a lot of Sikhs, a lot of Indians served alongside British officers during that campaign. So laying a wreath here is quite special. We get to remember all those men who served in that conflict and certainly defended India and Burma during the Second World War.
Thank you, Baji. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. So Sangat Ji, I'm going to now speak to Sergeant Kem Singh Malhotra, who's also representing part of the organisation that I hear. Baji, Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. I did obviously ask you earlier what you were doing, but it was such a long role that I thought it'd be better for you to tell the Sangat a bit about who you're representing and obviously a bit more information on the event itself.
I'm representing British Armed Forces Sikh Association. I'm the deputy chair of the association, and today I'm representing them on the Commonwealth parade. And in the army, my role is combat HR, Combat Human Resource. So I'm a sergeant in the Army General Corps, staff person support. So at the moment, I'm doing the regimental accountant role in 1 Royal Anglian in Woolwich.
And how do you find it, Baji, being in that role?
It's very challenging. It's very different. So we do change the role, so it's very good.
And if there's anyone watching now who's thinking, I want to get involved, do you want to give them a message, please?
Yeah, I will give them a message. Please join the army. It's very good. I have been last 13 years. I'm enjoying the army. In my corps, I've done all different world tour, and then all different roles as well, which I need to do.
Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Thank you. So Sangat Ji, I'm here with two lovely gentlemen in really nice uniform. One of the name is Lalit Guru here, and your name is?
Ganesh Tamal.
Ganesh Tamal. And they're here basically, and we're going to find out why. Could you tell me a bit about your role? Because it's quite interesting.
Well, first of all, thank you very much for interviewing us here in the wonderful place. The weather is very good. Well, we two are the Queen's Gurkha early officers.
Wow.
So it started from 18th century.
Wow.
So we are here to commemorate 120th anniversary of the First World and Second World War.
And are you both working together? You both work together for the Queen? Have you?
Yeah, when there is investiture, we will come together. But back in the regiments, we got different jobs and we live in different places. He's from Camberley, I'm from Aldershot, yeah.
I must say, you know what, the uniform is absolutely amazing, and I think I might be looking for a job to come and work with you guys too. So, but yeah, I hope you enjoy the event. Yeah. So thank you so much.
This is a ceremonial uniform, so
okay, no, it's really smart.
any event like this, we will dress up in #1 dress, which is this one.
Are you looking forward to the event?
Yeah, we are representing Brigadier Gurkhas, so it's nice too.
Thank you so much. Lovely to speak to you both. So Sangat Ji, I've got Purnima Raval with me here today, who's also at this event. Let's speak to Benji to find out a bit about her thoughts of how she feels. Benji, Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh.
Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh.
How do you feel being invited to such an event?
Absolutely honoured and privileged to come down to celebrate Commonwealth Day and to remember our soldiers, the contributions made by our soldiers and men and women of the Commonwealth for the world wars.
I was going to say, though, it's really important to have events like this, and so that we do remember it, because it can be easily forgotten about. So you're looking forward to seeing what the day involves?
Absolutely, and I think it's very important that we've got to teach our children and the children's children, to keep the legacy going, to keep the memory going and honour them. And I think it's so important, that the women do not, get recognised or mentioned as much. So we must remember the women as well, from the Indian, subcontinent, who made such an important contribution to the wars and to the peace efforts.
Thank you so much, Benji. I hope you enjoy the event. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Could you just please introduce yourself to the Sangha? Because we're here from Sikh Channel for the 120th anniversary commemoration.
Right.
So we just want to find out a bit about what you do.
I fully understand.
But if you could just tell us your name and your role.
Okay, my name is Commodore Anil Sabharwal. I'm from High Commission of India. I'm the Air Advisor posted here at London. And I'm here to represent my High Commissioner to lay the wreath on this Memorial Day.
I think this is such a brilliant event because obviously we get to remember obviously the history and of what happened in the war. How do you feel about how everyone's come together, all different faiths and everything that are here? How does it make you feel?
This is absolutely amazing, to see such a colorful, such a beautiful event wherein people are commemorating and still remembering the people, the gone soldiers. So I think it's very, very nicely organized and a very good gesture, very humble gesture.
So Sangaji, I'm here with two lovely pilots from the army. One is Brajinder, which I thought was Rajinder, what a unique name, and Hami. So we're going to speak to them to find out about their role and a bit about, where they actually heard about this event. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. So Brajinder, I love the name. It's so unique.
It is.
Tell me a bit about where the name came from first.
It came from my dad's Mossad, who was in the Indian artillery, and he was colonel. So it came from him, and he decided.
Does it mean anything?
Not that I know of. I'm sure he had a meaning behind it, but it came from him.
And Hami, yourself?
Yeah.
If you want to tell us a bit about the role of what you do.
Okay, so I'm in training at the moment. So I'm a pilot in training, and my brother, we're in the same regiment. It's the Army Air Corps. So it's the British Army's aviation. And as you can see, he's got the wings on. So he's just passed out, and I'm hoping to get there by next year. So that's the plan.
Could you not just take the wing off and put it on your jacket?
I wouldn't let him.
Okay.
Jackets really same size.
Okay, you know what? The other thing I was going to ask you was, how do you feel about such an event like this that is being held in memory of, obviously, the people that fought in the World War I and II? If you could tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so like I said, memorials all around London, and we can see them all around us anyway, and it's good to remember those who've fallen. Another significant part about today is getting all the Commonwealth countries together, which I think is quite a strong bond, and it's quite important as well, especially with the British Army. We've got 187 Sikhs in the army at the moment, 180 odd, and most of them are from the Commonwealth, so they come from India and they join. So that bond and that connection is what keeps us together, and it's quite important.
Can you tell us what aircraft are you going to be flying then?
Yeah, so I've recently just passed out from training course, and I'll be going to Apache attack helicopter in July. So it's a long bit of training, but I'll be in Apache helicopter hopefully in a few years.
So maybe could Sikh Channel come and just take a little ride on that, yeah?
Absolutely, why not?
Okay, brilliant. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. So Sangaji, I'm here with Baroness Flather, who is one of the main organisers, probably has got even more of a bigger role than what I'm saying. I'm going to find out by speaking to her to see how this all came about. Hi, Baroness Flather. If you could tell us a bit about how this all came about.
In 1997, I learned that there was no memorial to us, to the Indians. The two world wars, in the first war we were 1.5 million, in the second war 2.5 million, and there was nothing to remember us in the whole of London or England. And I thought this was wrong, and we should be doing something. Now, when I go to schools, I tell everybody, if you feel something has to be done, don't look behind you. There is nobody there. You have to get on and do it. So I set up a trust. I was in the Lords, of course. I'm in the Lords still, of course. And I got some important people who I thought would be helpful,
Yeah.
and we started on this project. It took about 5 years before we had enough money to build it. And it took another 2 years or so afterwards to sort of sort out everything. So I spent a lot of my life on getting this. But it always has to be one person who acts as a catalyst.
Yeah.
And I think, I mean, I didn't build it by myself.
No.
But if it hadn't been for me, there'd be no
be
memorial.
no-
I have no problem saying that
Yeah.
because it's a fact.
Yeah, no, I just want to say we're really privileged as Sikh Channel to be humbled to be invited here today. But just looking at all the different multicultural people that are here, and I just feel so amazed by it all, just to see that how it's remembered.
See, that's the other thing, because we found there was no memorial to the West Indians,
Yeah.
no memorial to the Africans, and we were all volunteers. Indians were, and so were the others. So we thought we'd make a joint memorial.
Yeah, no, it's brilliant. I just want
Which
to
is
say,
very, very. I'm very pleased we did that.
Yeah.
Because it brings us all together. We had a lot of similar experiences.
Yeah, no, thank you so much, and God bless you for all the great work that you've done. So nice to meet you. Okay.
And I hope you're comfortable. Where you're seated, the wreath layers will be playing a formal part of the ceremony. The remainder of you, please enjoy the ceremony from behind. But please bear in mind the dignity of this particular occasion. Relatively informal, but I would ask that you pay respects where they are due. To begin the ceremony, we'll have one or two introductory words from the chairman of the Memorial Gates Council. Then we will have a historian to say a few words about the theme of today's ceremony, and then the speaker's chaplain will lead us in some thoughts about the memorial. At the end of her speech and her address, we will then move to the last post, which will be sounded by the trumpeter behind me, the cornet there. At the end of the last post, there will be 1 minute silence. Following the silence at 11:01, all being well, the bugler will play the reveille. Thereafter, a piper will play the lament, and then we'll begin the wreath-laying ceremony. I would be grateful if you stand for the last post and then take your seats after the reveille call has been played. Thank you.
My lords, your excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, and dear friends. It is an honor to welcome you on behalf of Memorial Gates Council and its distinguished list of patrons. What seems to be a glorious Monday morning, and I thank you for taking the time to be with us this morning. I have to start by saying one name in particular, which is Baroness Srila Flether, without whom these memorial gates would not exist today. There would be no memorial to the many hundreds of thousands of people who served and sacrificed their lives for the empire from the Indian subcontinent, Africa, and the West Indies. We exist to tackle the historical amnesia. These gates are here to address the fact we also served. Today, we remember one of the significant historical battles at Saragarhi on its 120th commemoration year, where history clearly records the heroic last stand of 21 men from the 36th Sikh Regiment who fought over 100,000 tribesmen to their last man. More on that from our guest speaker, Tony McClellan, in a few moments. This year, of course, we also remember those who served on the Western Front, the Battle of Bulge, the battle at Feshenal. We remember all those from the Commonwealth who fought the Middle East and Mesopotamia. The tragedy of SS Mendi saw 606 South African lives lost off the British coast in 1917. Battles at Gaza, Tikrit, and Ramadi, where the 3rd Lahore Division fought the Ottoman Empire. Here at the memorial gates, we wish to bring to life memory of service and sacrifice for future generations through collaborations with the likes of the National Army Museum and others by delivering educational projects. To this end, we invite you and your friends to join us at the Palace of Westminster at the invitation of the Speaker of the House of Commons on the 8th of May. In doing so, I also urge you and request that you dig deep in your pockets to help us with this monumental endeavor. We are going to launch our charitable education work to give life to the lasting legacy behind these gates that stand before you. We are, as per the theme, salute the gallantry of the 21 Indian Order of Merit recipients for Battle of Saragarhi. The surviving men saw World War campaigns as part of the 36th Sikh Regiment of the British Army. We remember the 21: Ishar Singh, Lal Singh, Nayak Chanda Singh, Sundar Singh, Ram Singh, Uttam Singh, Shahib Singh, Hira Singh, Bhagwan Singh, Daya Singh, Jeevan Singh, Pola Singh, Narayan Singh, Gurumukh Singh, Jeevan Singh, Gurumukh Singh, Ram Singh, Bhagwan Singh, Bhuta Singh, Jeevan Singh, and Nand Singh. All India linked commemorations would be incomplete unless I mention the word Bollywood. As I speak this morning, there are 3 films in production on the theme of Saragarhi in India. They are shortly to see the day of light, and I just hope they are true to the legacy of the 21. Finally, we look forward to welcoming you and your friends in May and appreciate your continued support for the great cause in elevating after the footnotes of historical records to their rightful place in history. And in so doing, we can justly say we also served. In ending with the battle cry of the 36th Sikh Regiment, "He who cries God is truth is ever victorious."
Bole Sonehal, Sat Sri Akal.
Thank you.
Gave their lives in the 2 world wars, it is perhaps an opportune moment to remember those from the same countries who gave their lives in earlier conflicts, many of which are now forgotten. There are numerous examples from which to choose, ranging from the Middle East through Africa to the Caribbean and Southeast Asia. But as we've heard, the 12th of September this year marks the 120th anniversary of the Battle of Saragarhi in what was then the northwest frontier province of India, now part of Pakistan. And so a fitting time to remember this event as an illustrative example of the service and sacrifice that we commemorate today. Britain's attempts at controlling the frontier with Afghanistan and beyond depended on a limited forward defence commitment around Quetta, the Kurram Valley and the Khyber Pass. But as might have been expected, this was not universally popular with the tribal groupings on the frontier and led to numerous clashes which by the spring of 1897 had become a general uprising across the frontier. In August of that year, 2 tribal groups, the Orakzai and the Afridis, had joined forces to attack British-held positions on the strategically important Samana Ridge, on which a number of small posts had been built, the 2 main forts being Lockhart and Gulistan. But they were not within line of sight of each other, and given communication difficulties at the time, a small signalling post had been built at Saragarhi, midway between them. The forts and signalling post were manned by soldiers of the 36 Sikhs, which had only been raised 10 years earlier. In the case of the signalling post, Havildar or Sergeant Ishar Singh, Naik or Corporal Lal Singh, Lance Naik Chanda Singh, and 18 sepoys, with possibly one non-combatant follower. But the post offered little in the way of defences. In the early days of September 1897, the whole area became the focus of attention by about 10,000 tribesmen, and having tried to attack a number of other posts first, they launched their attack on the Saragarhi signalling post at 9 o'clock on the morning of the 12th of September. Severe fighting ensued for much of the day until mid-afternoon the tribesmen rushed the by now severely damaged post and killed the last survivors. The narrative of events at the signalling post has depended to a large extent upon the testimonials of Oryxide tribesmen given some time after the event. The detail of what actually occurred within Saragarhi in those final hours and minutes remains shrouded in mystery, though the tribesmen recounted that time and again the defenders had been asked to surrender, but that they'd stubbornly refused, preferring death to dishonour. All 21 soldiers were admitted posthumously to the Indian Order of Merit, at that time the highest award for gallantry that an Indian soldier could receive, and the regiment was uniquely awarded with the battle honour Samana. The events at Saragarhi became then, and remain so today, an inspiration to others and a proud reminder of what is meant by service and sacrifice. And I hope that today, as we stand here to honour those of the two world wars, we can take it as an example of the gallantry and dedication demonstrated by those of an even earlier generation.
Royal Highness, my lords, your excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, we have gathered together to commemorate the service and sacrifice of those from the Indian subcontinent, Africa, the Caribbean, men and women from different cultures, creed, ethnicities, and nations. And notice I haven't said different races, because we are one human race. People who gathered and sacrificially gave of their lives, volunteered. To volunteer means that they had a sense of belonging to something. And today we need to recapture that sense of belonging to one another, belonging to the one human race. The words from the Kohima epitaph, when you go home, tell them of us and say, for your tomorrow, we gave our today. These pillars, I believe, is an expression of those words. But as we only gather once per year for this occasion, it is my hope that during, in between times, that we will speak about those who gave of their lives, that we will honor them, honor those who bore the pain and adversities of war, that we will remember them, and that we will, through their memory, do all that we can to work for peace, for justice, for harmony amongst all peoples. That is the challenge for us today as we find ourselves in uncertain times. And I hope that this will not just be something we do and then we walk away and we forget the sacrifices, forget the labor of love that was given. I want us just to have a moment's brief silence as we think of what it is that each one of us can do to ensure that going forwards we work together for peace, for justice, and harmony. Those familiar words, they shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. at the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them. We will remember them.
The wreath-laying ceremony will now begin, and laying a wreath on behalf of His Royal Highness the Prince of Wales, Field Marshal Sir John Chappell. The Chairman of the Memorial Gates Council. And Baroness Flather, who was largely responsible for where we are today. Representing the trustees of the Memorial Gates Trust, those people responsible for raising the funds for this memorial. Of Greater London, the Deputy Lieutenant. And representing the United Kingdom's Ministry of Defence, Earl Howe. And representing the United Kingdom's Chief of Defence Staff, Rear Admiral Kingwell. The Metropolitan Police. The Commonwealth Secretariat with Baroness Scotland. And the Royal Commonwealth Society. The Royal Commonwealth Ex-Services League, Brigadier Innes, and the Royal Overseas League, Major General Porter. The Punjab Frontier Force, and the Burma Star Association. The Burma Star Association, followed by the newly formed British 77 Brigade, which was previously deployed in India. The recent formation of 77 Brigade is represented here today. And the King's African Rifles, Captain Nicol. He's only 97. And representing the West Indian servicemen, that's the West Indian Association of the South African Legion, followed by the Gurkha Brigade Association, and the Brigade of Gurkhas. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. That concludes the formal part of the wreath-laying ceremony. You're now invited to adjourn to the tea tent for refreshments and mingle with our other guests. And there will be an opportunity for others who wish to lay a wreath to come forward as our guests have moved away from this place. Thank you.
So Sangaji, I'm here with the Royal Majesty, and we're going to find out a bit about what they feel of representing such an event. Royal Majesty, welcome. I'd just like to know, how do you feel about representing this Commonwealth event?
Well, I just thank, first of all, God Almighty, the King of Kings, for bringing me to represent the Yoruba race in Nigeria. And I'm very happy to be here, that all the races in the world, everybody belongs to one race, the human race. If you all come together by virtue of events like this to remember our heroes past, for all of us to live together in peace and harmony, irrespective of our color, irrespective of our complexion, we should all come together as one happy family and make the world a better place. So it's a good thing that I am here to represent the king in Africa, and particularly from Yoruba land. It's very important for us to know that peace is very important in the world. We don't want a world full of violence. We want a violence-free world. We all should come together to celebrate heroes that have actually made the world to be together till date. So I'm very happy that I'm here.
Thank you so much. God bless you. Thank you. So Sangaji, I'm here with two lovely gentlemen from the South African Legion. They will introduce themselves a bit about what they do. And could you just tell me your name and what your role is and where you've come from?
My name's Theo Fernandez, and I'm actually in the UK branch. What we do is we actually commemorate a lot of the commemorations that they do. We've just done the Mendi. We've come down there for the Commonwealth. I've been doing the Commonwealth for the last 6 years.
Oh wow, you've been coming down every year?
Every year for the last 6 years. This is my 6th year that I'm doing it.
And how do you find it?
It's gone bigger and bigger from what I've seen. It's actually excellent coming out and commemorating the guys from the Commonwealth.
Yeah, oh, that's brilliant. And could you introduce yourself and a bit about your role?
Well, my name's Andrew Bergman. I'm the chairman of the European branch of the South African Legion, but I'm representing the UK and EU branch, and I've also been here for the last 4 years. So we look after the welfare of veterans, of military veterans, but we're here to honour the fallen, of course, and we like to. It's important for us to be with this group in the community of nations, and especially rubbing shoulders with other members of the Commonwealth and embracing the many, many members of the Commonwealth who fell in service.
And I found, just being at an event like this, and you probably do feel this for having come here several years, is there's that oneness of there's so many different multi-faiths and everyone's from different backgrounds, but everyone comes together, and it's just amazing. I mean, how do you feel about that?
Well, that's very much the way we feel, certainly as veterans, because soldiers are soldiers. There's not a black soldier, or a white soldier, or an Indian soldier. Soldiers we're brothers in arms. And so I think part of this togetherness is the cement that keeps it together, or the various armed people and people from the armed forces who have that affinity with one another.
Much. And once again, love the uniform. So nice to speak to you. Pleasure to speak to you. Thank you. So Sangaji, I'm here with Tony McClenaghan from the Indian Military Historical Society. Asihon Tony Thanagal just to find out about his role in this event and why it's so important. So Tony, welcome. And if you could tell us a bit about why is Saragarhi so important and why was this event held?
This year marks the 120th anniversary of the Battle of Saragarhi, the 12th of September. And it was seen then, and it still is seen now, particularly by the Sikh community, as an iconic event. It was, 21 soldiers and possibly one non-combatant follower, in a badly defended position, a little signalling post between the two main forts on the Samana Ridge, and they were surrounded by about 10,000 Oroksai and Afridi tribesmen. We know from subsequent talks by the Oroksai that they tried to persuade them to give up, and they refused to a man. They preferred death to dishonour, and so they were all massacred and they were also mutilated. The force that eventually got into Saragarhi got there sometime after the event, and they found the mutilated bodies. By then, the conflict had moved on to Fort Gulistan, where there was another, the same regiment, 36 Sikhs, had only been going for 10 years, so not a long-founded regiment, but at Gulistan, troops from there, Havaldars, took small teams out into the face of the enemy and captured standards and things like that. So the whole conflict was a significant one. It was part of the general uprising of the northwest frontier. It moved on from there to Tirah. But Saragarhi stands out because the 21 men sacrificed themselves. They had been given an opportunity to give up. They declined to do so. They refused to do so. And everybody recognized it then and still recognize it now as an inspirational example of service and sacrifice.
Yeah, and I can say as well, just from looking at the youth in our community, for example, a lot of them are not aware about the history, and you've just summarised that in, very short that you have, but it just makes them probably think, you know what, actually I want to get involved in being able to be a volunteer or being able to be at an event. Yep. So is there anything you would encourage youngsters to do?
Yes, there are a number of events going on that talk about the role of the Indian subcontinent, pre-independence, undivided India, but the role of the Indian subcontinent in a whole range of events, and particularly at the moment the focus is on the First World War. It will soon move to the Second World War, because remember, India was fighting for its own independence at this time, and yet it put up millions of men, all volunteers, to help fight for our independence. And that's why I think it's important that we remember, we commemorate, we don't forget the sacrifice that went on. Going back to Saragarhi, therefore, which took place, long before the First World War, nevertheless, it was an illustrative example of that sort of service and sacrifice. But it carried on, therefore, into the First World War. 36 Sikhs continued to serve, now commemorated by 4 Sikhs in the Indian Army. But they carried on through the First and then into the Second World War. So a tremendous degree of service.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to meet you. Thank you. So Sangaji, I'm here with Colonel John, as you can see in his amazing uniform. That's all I've been talking about is the uniforms, because everyone looks so nice in everything that they're wearing, and everyone's obviously representing this event. Asihon Gal Karungen with Colonel John to find out a bit about his role, even in Saragarhi, what involvement they have, and a bit about his history and how much he knows. So Colonel John, if you could tell me, basically you've come to this event, for the commemoration of the Saragarhi 120th years. A bit about, I guess, how much you know and how much you can kind of tell the viewers about your role and history.
Well, thank you. First of all, the event today is hugely important because it symbolises the long-term relationship between Britain and the Commonwealth. And India's role in that and the Sikhs' role in that is absolutely hugely important. The 120th anniversary of Saragarhi is also a really important event for the British Army because it is with the British that the Sikhs at Saragarhi and on that border campaign fought in the Tirah in 1897.
And is there any particular story about Saragarhi that resonates with you that you could tell us about?
Well, I think for me, as a military signaller, it's probably the story of the last signal from that outpost, where having fought against the odds of thousands, the Sikh soldiers there ran out of ammunition, they fixed their bayonets, and the last signal from the outpost was the signaller saying, I'm now going to join my colleagues, I'm going to fight to the death. And then there was silence. That story of bravery and sacrifice is an inspiration for all soldiers.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I've just got one other question, actually. You recently went to Amritsar. Could you just tell us a little about your visit in Amritsar and what that was for?
Well, we actually took a group of British Army serving Sikhs back to India to go to Amritsar and to reawaken our cultural heritage and our roots, because our grandparents knew this really well, that we had such a close relationship as soldiers and as countries. And now for our children today and young people today, we need to reawaken that relationship.
Did you enjoy it going to Amritsar?
Hugely. It was wonderful going to India. My family had been in India 2 generations ago. To go to some of the places they'd lived was a massive privilege.
Yeah, thank you so much. It was lovely to have you here today. Thank you. So Sangaji, I'm here with Inderjeet Singh, the chairman of Memorial Gates, a real asset and inspiration because he's been behind this event that's been organised for several years, and we feel really privileged, obviously, to be here. So Inderjeet, Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Firstly, a big thank you on behalf of Sikh Channel that you've invited us here today. It was a real inspiration for me and an inspiration probably for the youngsters out there. Could you maybe tell me and the Sangat what made you actually want to get involved in such an event?
Well, there are two primary reasons for this. Firstly, thank you for coming, and this is a community and the wider society effort. Yeah, the passion that I feel for this event stems from the fact that our forefathers gave their lives and they gave their whole for the empire, and in World War I and II. Saragarhi was our focus this year. Saragarhi, 21 Sikhs fought to the last man against 12,000 tribesmen, which is now Pakistan. And we have to commemorate this, and we owe it to our younger generations. If people like myself don't step forward and actually promote this and make people aware, who else will do it? Because we always say in our community, "Koi nahi wo kar luga." Yeah? I don't believe in that. Gurus have said, you starts with I. Tusi agge karo, baki aape ho jaga. That's what it's about. So I just happen to be here. I'm a nobody. I just happen to be at the right place at the right time, and I feel love for what this is about, and that's.
And I want to say, Baji, you know what? You took that step. You know, they say, like, you know, if we don't do anything, no one else is really going to do it. But you took that step. So for the viewers who are watching, what would you say to them if they want to get involved, or how can they support you?
Well, this is supporting our future generations. We talk about building gurdwaras. We talk about building other institutions. What is more important is education. Our gurus have said this, Miri Piri. Okay? If we don't understand what that is about, then we've lost the plot. I know people are busy building their lives, their businesses, and their families, etc. But part of that is also about this. This is about our history, our very rich history and heritage. And we need to preserve it for our future generations. So what I would say to the viewers is, yes, share your daswand with whoever you wish. But daswand isn't just about money. It's also about time, your intellect. And that's what it's about. So places like this, build 100 of them if you wish. But the important thing is education. Unless our younger generation needs to understand the roots from which they come, there isn't no future.
Thank you so much, Baji. And once again, on behalf of us, thank you for inviting us. We had an absolutely amazing day with you all, and God bless you and make you keep up this seva and always be in Chaddi Kala. Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. So Sangatji, this comes to the end of the Memorial Gates event. We really enjoyed it, and I feel quite emotional to be here. It does make you realise about the history that we should always remember. We should try and support events like this. If you do want to get involved, please go onto the Memorial Gates website, and if you're not sure of how to get involved, then you can always contact Sikh Channel. As we always say, thada feedback important as vaste, so please do give us a call on 01213801050 or info@sikhchannel.tv. But please let us know your thoughts, and please, please, please try to get involved as much as you can. Sadi Jadi history is important, and it's for us to take that step to get involved. Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh.